Hey everyone, and welcome back to Rank and File Sports. And today we're going to be hopping right back into our series where we are predicting every single Power 4 team's record by the start of the college football season. Today it's the West Virginia Mountaineers. Now, West Virginia is going to be one of the more average teams in the Big 12, but with their defense and just overall roster quality, they're going to have the potential to maybe pull off a couple upsets that shake up the conference as a whole. The schedule doesn't start off that easy, though, with a home game against Penn State. They're finishing out the home and home series. Last season, they came very close to beating the Nittany Lions on their home turf. That game was a pretty good game. I remember watching it, and just overall, it felt like West Virginia wasn't quite the better team, but they competed a lot better than a lot of people thought they were going to. Just really, this is one to watch out for to start the season. Penn State's going to be big favorites, but West Virginia's at home. They might want revenge from last season. You never know, they could pull off a huge upset here. The game against Albany is going to be a pretty easy win for West Virginia. Not really one to worry about. If they don't beat Penn State, they'll at least be 1-1 to start the season before heading in to their third non-conference matchup. This one's the road game against Pitt. These schools do not like each other. The fact that this one's on the road is going to make it a little bit tougher for West Virginia. They probably are going to be slight favorites. That's really going to depend a lot more on the Penn State game, though. If they're able to pull off the upset, it's almost a guarantee that West Virginia will be road favorites in this one. Either way, it seems like a decent possibility that they'll be able to get the win. And then Kansas to kick off Big 12 play will actually be a pretty difficult matchup. While the game is at home, the Jayhawks, led by Jalen Daniels, are going to have a very, very strong offense and just are going to be a really tough team to stop at home. After their bye week, they have a pretty difficult matchup on the road at Oklahoma State. The Cowboys are going to be favored in that one for sure. Iowa State and Kansas State, both home games, and Kansas State is the better of these two teams for sure. The fact that both of them are at home makes me feel like they're going to win at least one of them. It could be a pretty big upset if it's the Kansas State one, but more than likely it will be Iowa State. After that is a very tough road game at Arizona. Arizona is one of the best teams in the Big 12 Conference, and the fact that West Virginia is on the road, and this is a pretty long road trip too, Arizona is just going to be pretty heavy favorites at home. They have an explosive offense. They're going to be tough to stop heading into that second bye week. Now, out of that bye week, they have a pretty easy road trip against Cincinnati. The Bearcats are going to be one of the worst teams in the Big 12 this season, so it's really tough to see West Virginia losing this game on the road. Back-to-back home games follow that with Baylor and UCF coming to town. Both of these should be pretty close games. It's possible West Virginia loses one out of these two, but they should be favored in both of them at home. And finishing out the season at Texas Tech, a very well-rounded team. This game is going to be another really, really close one. The fact that it's a road game makes it pretty hard for West Virginia to close out the season with a win, but I wouldn't completely rule it out as a possibility. Overall, they've got 7 home games and 5 away games, with 3 of their top 25 opponents being ranked in our Rank and File Top 25, and a schedule difficulty of 5.5 out of 10. The lone guaranteed win for West Virginia is the game against Albany. We just really can't see them losing this game. They're a much, much better team, and just overall not really one to even consider as a possible loss for the Mountaineers. There is also only one likely win on the schedule, which sets us up for having quite a few toss-ups, but this one is the game on the road against Cincinnati towards the end of the season. It's on November 9th, starting the 4-game stretch to end the year. Cincinnati just really isn't that great of a team. They'll have the home field advantage, but we do expect West Virginia to win with a decently comfortable margin. We have 5 toss-ups for the Mountaineers, and the first of which is their rivalry matchup at Pitt. West Virginia should be slight favorites on the road in this game. However, Pitt, as their rivals and a pretty decent team in the ACC, should definitely compete in this game. And just overall, this should be a really fun one to watch early in the season. However, West Virginia should be able to get the road victory. The next toss-up is a home game against Iowa State, and the Cyclones are actually a pretty decent team this year. They're definitely one that West Virginia should not underestimate, even though they're on the road. This game will be very close and definitely a tough win for West Virginia to get, but they should be able to do it. Against Baylor is also a pretty interesting game. The Bears are not going to be a super great team, so this one was a borderline between the toss-ups and the likely wins. However, we chose to put it right on the edge of the toss-ups, but we are going to give West Virginia a home win. Another home game is UCF, and the Knights are a pretty good team. This is definitely something that West Virginia cannot overlook because UCF has the talent to go on the road and win this game. And finally, the road game at Texas Tech to end the season. The Red Raiders are a very balanced team. This is definitely a game that West Virginia could lose to end the year. And finally, there are 5 likely losses on the schedule. With Penn State at home, this one is probably going to be close at halftime. However, the Nittany Lions should be able to pull away in the late third quarter to early fourth quarter portion of this game and get a 2-digit victory. Kansas, to open up the Big 12 season, is going to be a pretty difficult game. The Jayhawks are a very talented team, and Jalen Daniels is a very talented quarterback. This one is going to be really tough for West Virginia to win at home, but it's not completely out of the question, which is why it's in the likely loss category. Oklahoma State is a road game for West Virginia, and that's one of the main factors that this one got put in the likely losses. It is right after a bye week, which gives them extra time to prepare, and they're going to need it. However, this Oklahoma State team is just too talented in our minds. They are going to win this game at home. Kansas State is a home matchup for West Virginia, and this Kansas State team is going to be very talented. However, they'll probably lose to one or two teams that they shouldn't. West Virginia could be one of those teams. And finally, it's the October 26th matchup on the road against Arizona. This is a very, very talented Arizona team, especially on the offensive side of the ball. They're lacking a little bit of depth, but they should be able to win this game at home. Moving on to the schedule recap, we do have West Virginia losing to Penn State to start the season. However, Albany is a pretty easy bounce back game, and we also have them pulling off a slight upset on the road at Pitt, which puts them at 2-1 heading into Big 12 play, where we have the Mountaineers pulling off a very big upset at home against Kansas. Now, this Kansas team, like I mentioned, is going to be a very tough team to beat with Jalen Daniels at quarterback, but it kind of feels like they're going to lose at least one game that they really shouldn't. And this one, pretty early on in the season, a road trip for them, feels like the one, just looking at Kansas's schedule, that they are going to drop. So that moves West Virginia to 3-1 heading into their first bye week. Now, the next set of 4 games is pretty tough. Starting with Oklahoma State, we just really can't see West Virginia winning that one on the road. The Cowboys are a very good team, and the home field advantage certainly doesn't help West Virginia's case. We have them bouncing back with a win at home as slight favorites over Iowa State, moving to 4-2, before a difficult 2-game span with Kansas State and a road trip to Arizona. Don't really see West Virginia winning either of those. Kansas State would be the most likely one out of the two, mainly because it's at home. But earlier I mentioned between Iowa State and Kansas State, can really only see them winning one of those 2 games. So if they pull off the Kansas State upset, it's probably because they lost to Iowa State the week before. All of this together means that they're heading into their second bye week with a 500 record. After that, though, they rip off 3 straight wins, with a road trip to Cincinnati being the easiest, and then 2 home games, Baylor and UCF. UCF's going to be the tougher one to pull off, but we do have West Virginia winning all 3 of those, moving to 7-4, before dropping their final game of the season on the road at Texas Tech. This gives West Virginia a predicted record of 7-5. The projected record actually does sit below 500 at 5.2 and 6.8. This is because we have them pulling off a couple upsets and also winning a few different 50-50 matchups. It's very easy to maybe see West Virginia not making a bowl game. However, we like them to do so at 7-5. FPI has them at 6.3 and 5.7, also slightly favored towards making a bowl game, but only a 6.4% chance of making a playoff appearance and a 0.1% chance of winning the national championship. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. Please make sure to like and subscribe, and we will see you in our next video.